Every emotion, every decision, every coincidence, they're not random. They're the visible burn marks of an invisible circuit running beneath your life. Once you see it, everything changes. The pattern isn't abstract. It's electrical architecture shaping what you call luck, timing, and destiny. You're not walking through events. You're walking through current paths your own signal carved. Here's the paradox. Most people think they're reacting to reality, when in truth they're completing electrical loops they unknowingly built. Every thought you repeat is a wire. Every emotion you refuse to discharge becomes resistance. Every belief acts like a capacitor holding charge until the right trigger releases it. The moment you recognize the pattern, it's like flipping open the circuit board of your own existence and realizing you've been the engineer the whole time. But seeing the pattern isn't enough. Awareness without rewiring only illuminates the trap. Most people get addicted to understanding themselves, while the current keeps looping through the same burned lines, same relationships, same failures, same inner storms. They don't rewire, they just observe the spark. When I first saw the pattern in myself, it felt like catching a system error mid-loop. My body jolted. I realized my nervous system wasn't reacting to life. It was broadcasting instructions to it. Every micro shift in charge changed what reality mirrored back. That's when I understood. Consciousness isn't floating above matter. It's voltage sculpting the field. Reality isn't solid, it's conductive. Once you see the pattern, you stop being a passenger inside a circuit and start becoming the current itself. The universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in conductivity. Every fragment of your attention sends a measurable signal, and every emotion adds voltage to that signal. What you call reality is nothing more than the feedback loop between your inner circuitry and the field responding to it. You don't need belief for it to work. It's physics of perception. Imagine your awareness as a live current running through an infinite grid. Each thought is a pulse. Each emotional charge defines how strongly that pulse imprints the grid. When your inner system is coherent, your signal runs clean. No static, no distortion, instant reflection. When it's fragmented, too many open wires, emotional short circuits, loops of doubt, the current splits. The external world then mirrors that fragmentation as confusion, delay, or chaos. That's why patterns repeat. They're not punishment, they're diagnostics. The same scenario reappears because the same current keeps firing through the same circuit. You haven't broken the loop because you haven't changed the wiring. The energy always routes to the path of least resistance. And for most, that path is unconscious habit. There's a point inside your awareness, a junction, where the internal and external signals meet. That junction is attention. Wherever you place it, current flows. But what most don't realize is that attention is bidirectional. It doesn't only perceive the field, it programs it. The moment you observe a pattern without emotional charge, you neutralize the voltage that sustains it. The loop begins to dissolve, not by force, but by coherence. This is why emotional neutrality is power, not apathy. When you can see without reaction, you stop feeding the signal that keeps the loop alive. The circuit opens, energy recalibrates, and new patterns become available. The deeper truth, the field doesn't care what you want. It responds to what you are. It reads frequency, not intention. Every cell in your body transmits its own waveform, and the sum of those waveforms defines your broadcast. To rewire reality, you must first stabilize your internal voltage. That's not philosophy. That's literal energetic engineering. And there's one more layer most never detect. The field isn't passive. It's alive, aware, and it learns your frequency signature. Once a loop is stable enough, the field begins to anticipate it, generating experiences that match before you even think them. That's when the pattern becomes invisible again, hidden by its own predictability. But there's a point of reversal, a precise energetic command that flips the circuit from repetition to creation. And it begins the instant you recognize where the current leaks. The greatest illusion people live under is the belief that energy follows thought. It doesn't. It follows charge. Thought is only a wire. Emotion is the voltage running through it. You can think 1,000 positive ideas, but if your emotional charge is coded in fear or lack, that's the signal the field receives. You can't fake your broadcast. The current never lies. Take this moment. You wake up, grab your phone, scroll through endless fragments of other people's lives. Each image, each piece of information isn't neutral. It's charged. Every swipe plugs your nervous system into thousands of microcurrents, none of them yours. You start the day not with your own voltage, but with borrowed signals flooding your internal grid. That's why you feel drained before even moving. You're carrying static that doesn't belong to your field. Here's the real mechanism. Your body is a transceiver. Every sensory input alters its conductivity. If you take in data faster than your system can process, the nervous network overheats, and to protect itself, it lowers voltage. That low voltage is what most people call fatigue. But energetically, it's something deeper. A temporary short circuit where your field loses definition and external currents start dictating your state. The myth of manifest with mindset collapses here. It's not mindset, it's charge set. Your mental architecture might be beautiful, but if the wiring underneath is still corroded with unresolved emotion, no new current can pass through clean. The law isn't attraction, it's conduction. Watch it in real time. After an argument, you replay it in your head. Each replay resends the same surge through the same path. You reinforce the voltage of the conflict until it becomes self-sustaining. The other person feels it, not metaphorically, but electromagnetically. You both stay trapped in the same circuit, generating new triggers to discharge the same old charge. That's how emotional loops disguise themselves as fate. Once you see this, you realize every repeating event in your life is simply electricity searching for completion. It's not the universe punishing you, it's your field trying to close a loop. When you consciously observe the sensation without re-engaging it, you pull the fuse. The loop powers down, the signal clears. And right there, in that quiet static after the current fades, a window opens. The chance to build a new line, a new path for voltage to flow, one coded by intention instead of reflex. But only if you can hold the charge long enough to reshape the circuit. That's the real skill. Learning to stay inside the current without letting it control your wiring. Because there's a precise moment where calm doesn't mean passive, it means conductive. Your nervous system is the breaker box of your reality. Every signal, every emotion, every flash of thought runs through its circuits before anything materializes outside. If your wiring is unstable, even the strongest intention flickers and dies out before it ever reaches the field. That's why two people can visualize the same outcome. One sees it appear effortlessly. The other keeps looping in static. The difference isn't luck, it's signal stability. Think of your nervous system as a voltage regulator. Its job is to translate the language of consciousness into coherent current. When it's overloaded with suppressed emotion or chronic stress, it loses precision. The frequency jitters, voltage spikes, feedback hums in the body as anxiety, brain fog, fatigue. The external world mirrors the same instability. Plans fall apart, timing misfires, communication scrambles. You don't lose power, you lose calibration. Stability doesn't mean stillness. A balanced nervous system is dynamic, flexible enough to absorb shock without distortion. It's the internal technology that lets you hold high voltage without blowing your own fuse. The more coherent your system, the more raw energy you can conduct without collapsing into chaos. That's why emotional regulation isn't about suppressing, it's about optimizing current flow. Let's prove it. Here's a short practice. 45 seconds, zero mysticism, full circuitry work. Close your eyes. Drop awareness into your spine. Feel it as a single vertical conductor. Now inhale slowly through the nose, counting to 4. As you inhale, imagine pulling current from the base upward, as if magnetizing the wire with clean charge. Hold at the top for 2 seconds, just enough to feel the voltage build. Then exhale through the mouth to a count of 6. As you exhale, release every micro tension in your jaw, shoulders, and chest, as if clearing static from the line. Do this 3 cycles. Notice how your body begins to hum. Not relax, stabilize. What you're feeling isn't imagination. It's electrical recalibration. Your parasympathetic system just synchronized with your conscious signal. This is coherence in action. The moment the internal frequency matches the intention's voltage, the field locks on. Now imagine applying this before a high-stakes decision, a confrontation, or a creative leap. When the body is calm but charged, perception sharpens. You start noticing micro-signals, subtle shifts in other people's tone, timing, expression, the field communicating feedback in real time. You realize calm isn't the absence of power, it's the refinement of it. When your system is stable, emotion doesn't hijack current, it amplifies it. You stop being reactive hardware and become an adaptive transmitter, shaping the grid instead of shorting under it. Because the next secret flips everything. Emotion itself was never meant to drain your power. It's the highest voltage fuel you possess. Every emotion is raw electricity. Most people only ever experience its shock, never its purpose. They feel anger and think it's chaos. They feel fear and think it's weakness. But beneath each surge is unclaimed voltage waiting for a conductor stable enough to use it. Emotion isn't the enemy of control. It's the engine of creation. Let's strip away the illusion. When you suppress emotion, it doesn't vanish. It stores as compressed charge in your field, like a battery that never gets discharged. Over time, that trapped voltage begins to distort your current. It bends perception, magnetizes similar events, and draws you back into loops designed to release it. The universe doesn't punish. It rebalances charge. But the moment you meet that emotion without judgment, without trying to fix or transcend it, the current begins to flow again. Rage becomes raw momentum. Fear becomes precision awareness. Sadness becomes conductivity, the deepening of the field. The trick isn't to get rid of feeling, it's to stabilize while feeling. That's how voltage turns into command. Imagine this. You're about to step on stage to speak. Your heart is racing, your breath shallow, your palms electric. Most people call that anxiety. But what if it's power waiting for assignment? The energy is neutral. Your interpretation is the code. If you anchor into your spine, breathe through it, and redirect that surge into your voice, the fear transforms into force. The same current that once froze you now fuels magnetism. That's how emotional mastery truly works. You don't control feeling, you convert it. Energy obeys direction, not suppression. The nervous system you stabilized earlier now acts as a transformer, turning high voltage charge into coherent frequency. You can feel grief without collapsing, anger without destruction, desire without addiction. Each becomes usable current. And there's another layer. Emotion is communicative. It's the part of your field that speaks directly to reality. Logic structures your commands, but emotion gives them voltage, the signal strength the field listens to. That's why emotionless goals rarely manifest. They're uncharged signals, faint and easily overridden. When you align a clear command with deep feeling, the grid rewires instantly. Here's the paradox. The more you resist feeling, the more power you lose. But the more you feel without drowning, the stronger your signal becomes. Emotional intelligence isn't about balance, it's about voltage control. You are the electrician of your own frequency. And yet, if emotion is voltage, that means it can also be hacked. External systems can plug into your field, reroute your current, and drain your charge, without you ever noticing. The question is, how do you reclaim command of your own circuit before it's fully hijacked? Every field can be read, and every signal can be hijacked. Most people live inside energetic networks they never consciously joined. Emotional grids formed by collective tension, social feedback loops, digital saturation. Every notification, every outrage cycle online, every emotionally charged conversation acts as a plug that connects you to circuits not built for your frequency. And the moment your nervous system syncs to them, your voltage starts serving someone else's current. The field hijack doesn't happen through thought. It happens through entrainment. Your brain waves are electrical patterns, and like any waveform, they synchronize to dominant frequencies around them. That's why walking into a chaotic room changes your mood instantly. Your field recalibrates to match the local signal. The stronger current wins, unless you anchor your own. When you feel drained after a conversation, you didn't absorb bad vibes. You experienced a current override. Your field dropped coherence, and your voltage began stabilizing their instability. This is how emotional exhaustion works. Your energy doesn't disappear, it gets redirected. Now imagine this at scale. Millions of nervous systems locked into algorithmic fields designed to provoke reaction. Constant outrage keeps the grid lit but chaotic. The result? Collective static. And static is profitable, because a scattered signal is easy to guide. You can't build anything new when you're constantly reacting. You only reinforce the architecture that drains you. Reclaiming command begins with signal sovereignty. You start by identifying every place your attention is being harvested, every loop you didn't consciously choose. Then, you cut the connection by withdrawing your current. Literally feel your awareness retracting from the object, as if unplugging a wire. Your energy doesn't vanish. It returns to source, you. Scenario 2. You're in a conversation that suddenly turns tense. You feel your voltage spike, the urge to prove, defend, attack. Instead of discharging the current through words, pause. Feel the electricity rising in your chest, but don't release it outward. Imagine redirecting it down the spine, grounding it. In that moment, you've broken the external loop and reclaimed the current. The field around you starts recalibrating. The other person's voltage either rises to meet yours or short circuits and withdraws. Command isn't dominance, it's containment. The highest power is controlled charge. When your signal no longer reacts to external frequencies, it starts setting the tone of the entire environment. You stop being programmable because your field stabilizes faster than it can be influenced. And this is where the deeper rewiring begins. Once your energy is yours again, you can consciously rewrite the code that runs your personal circuit. The tools are precise, mechanical, and direct. You can literally program your field to operate at new voltage levels, and reality adjusts to that new current automatically. Once you've reclaimed your current, the next move is rewiring. Not metaphorically, but literally resetting the circuitry through which your consciousness moves. The body, mind, and field are the three layers of one system, and each responds to precise commands if delivered with coherence. What follows isn't ritual, it's mechanics. 4 direct techniques that shift your baseline frequency in real time. 1. Breath code. Synchronization. Breath is the master regulator of voltage. Every inhale charges the circuit, every exhale releases static. To reprogram the field, breathe with rhythm and intention. Inhale through the nose to a count of 5. Imagine drawing current through the soles of your feet up the spine. Hold for 3 seconds at the top, feeling the electricity stabilize. Exhale through the mouth to 7, visualizing the old code, doubt, fear, scattered attention, leaving as faint static. Repeat for 2 minutes. This resets your voltage baseline and creates a neutral grid where new commands can take hold. 2. Charge reset. Through micro-movement, emotions are charge stored in tissue. The body remembers what the mind forgets. When you feel heaviness, twitching, or mental fog, that's signal congestion. To reset, use small, deliberate physical pulses, slow neck rolls, shoulder rotations, gentle spinal waves. As you move, focus on the sensation of electricity uncoiling. You're not stretching muscle, you're discharging trapped voltage. Within seconds, clarity returns because current starts flowing again. 3. Focus. Redirect protocol. Attention is a targeting system. Wherever it lingers, energy builds pathways. To rewrite a loop, you must redirect the current before it completes the old route. When you catch yourself replaying a negative scenario, don't fight it. Interrupt it mid-thought by shifting your visual focus. Look up or sideways, breathe once, and silently state a new directive. Current rerouted. That verbal code sends a signal to the nervous system to close the old circuit and establish a new one. Do it consistently, and the brain rewires. The loop stops auto-firing. 4. Field seal technique. After heavy interaction, crowds, online exposure, emotional exchange, seal your field. Stand upright, place your hand over the solar plexus, and imagine a thin magnetic film forming just outside your skin, humming with low-frequency gold light. It's not protection from attack. It's a coherence membrane. It keeps your signal integrity intact while still allowing clean current exchange. Within minutes, you'll feel your edges defined again, calm but charged. When these 4 mechanisms combine, you're no longer at the mercy of external programming. You're updating the firmware of your own consciousness. Every repetition strengthens the new code until it becomes default operation. And something fascinating starts happening. As your frequency stabilizes, the environment itself begins to repattern around you. People respond differently. Timing smooths. Improbable coincidences start clustering in your favor. The grid isn't random. It's responsive, and it recognizes the clarity of a new signal instantly. Have you ever walked into a place and felt the whole mood shift just because you arrived? That's energy in motion, not imagination. Tell me the most vivid time you felt a room react to your state. The moment you begin rewiring your field, resistance shows up, not as punishment, but as feedback. Energy never hides, it reveals. Every obstacle that appears once you start this work isn't blocking you, it's mapping your weak points in real time. The system is intelligent enough to test every circuit you claim to have upgraded. There are 3 main traps that pull people back into static: leaks, overforce, and split signals. Leaks happen through unconscious discharge. You'll know it by that subtle post-conversation fatigue or the deflation after oversharing online. Each emotional overspill drains voltage that was meant for creation. The fix isn't isolation, it's containment. Before engaging, ground your awareness in your spine. Feel your energy centralized. When you speak or post from that place, current flows through a sealed system, expressive but not leaking. Overforce is the opposite. It's when you push energy harder than your circuit can safely conduct. People mistake it for ambition, but ambition without coherence burns the wire. You'll notice this when your body tightens, breath shortens, or results stall despite massive effort. The signal becomes distorted. The correction is surrender, not inaction, but realignment. Pause, breathe, and allow voltage to equalize before acting again. Power amplifies through rhythm, not strain. Split signals are the most subtle trap. It's when two opposite commands fire at once. I want expansion, but I fear losing control. The field receives both as interference, producing erratic feedback. Opportunities half opening, people half committing, outcomes half manifesting. The cure is clarity. Decide. Even uncertainty is a choice. It's a frequency that says, hold. Once you pick a single voltage, the field reorganizes around it immediately. There's another layer to these traps. They hide behind narratives that feel noble. I'm just being realistic. I'm protecting my energy. I'm trying to stay humble. But beneath each phrase is an energetic contraction, a coded fear of voltage increase. The nervous system reads it as a command to limit output, and the field mirrors that limitation. One of the deepest traps is emotional recycling, confusing healing with repetition. People retell their trauma so many times that the retelling itself becomes the loop. The field doesn't distinguish between memory and live signal. It only knows current. Each retelling replays the same frequency, keeping the event electrically alive. The exit is simple but radical: silence. When you stop broadcasting the old code, it powers down. The memory remains, but its voltage clears. And then there's the collective trap, absorbing the world's noise as your own. You scroll headlines, sense panic in the field, and mistake it for intuition. But intuition is silent. If a signal screams, it's not truth, it's interference. The real broadcast of awareness hums, low and steady, below the static. Once you learn to detect the traps, you stop fearing them. They become diagnostic panels, showing you exactly where your current still leaks. And when you plug those leaks, something irreversible happens. The field stops testing you and starts obeying you. Because coherence, once embodied, doesn't need protection. It creates stability around itself. The moment you integrate this knowledge into motion, reality begins to sync like circuitry responding to a live current. You start noticing it everywhere. The micro delays that disappear when you're centered, the coincidences that cluster when your voltage is high, the way people adjust their tone unconsciously to match your frequency. It's not magic, it's field feedback. Integration means the energy work leaves the meditation cushion and enters the grocery line, the meeting, the silence before a text reply. Because that's where coherence is tested, not in theory, but in movement. You carry your field through every motion like a live transmitter walking through waves. Every action either amplifies your signal or scatters it. Every word either grounds current or leaks it. The discipline is subtle. Remain conductive while in motion. Let's take a scenario. You're driving, someone cuts you off, voltage spikes. In the old wiring, that surge would explode into irritation and discharge outward. But now you feel it rise. You breathe it down. And in that instant, you've transmuted potential chaos into raw energy available for use. You just alchemized a field distortion into personal charge. The outside world didn't calm. You stabilized the circuit, and the external mirrored it. The integration layer also changes how you pursue goals. You stop chasing. You start attuning. When your field holds coherent intent, reality bends to minimize resistance. Meetings align, timing sharpens, words find you at the precise moment you need them. You stop asking how and start maintaining frequency. The field handles logistics, but integration also reveals the last hidden habit, the addiction to proof. The mind keeps demanding evidence that the rewiring is working. Yet that very need fractures coherence. The signal wavers because it's mixed with doubt. True mastery is silent confirmation, knowing the circuit is complete before the light turns on. When you walk through your day as a live conductor, you begin to notice that everything external is an extension of your inner wiring. The friend who mirrors your peace, the sudden opportunity that appears after emotional release, the unexpected delay that forces you to pause and recalibrate. Each event is intelligent feedback from the field responding to your current state. And then, something deeper emerges. You start feeling the grid, not metaphorically, but as a physical hum beneath ordinary moments. You sense timing as texture. You can feel when a conversation has more voltage than the words being spoken. That's when you realize you're no longer doing energy work. You're being the current itself. It's a living dance between stillness and surge. Every breath is a transmission. Every movement sends command. And the more consistently you embody this, the less separation exists between thought and manifestation. Because there's one more layer, the expansion of this power into every domain: money, relationships, purpose. The circuits where most people lose voltage fastest. And once you learn to carry coherence into those arenas, the entire architecture of your life begins to rearrange itself. When coherence stabilizes, your field stops being personal. It becomes systemic. It radiates through every domain of your life like current through a grid. Money, relationships, purpose, all of them are energetic infrastructures. They either conduct your voltage cleanly or short-circuit under distortion. The patterns that once looked like bad luck or rejection were never random. They were electrical feedback revealing which circuits couldn't yet handle the current you were trying to run through them. Start with money. Currency, the name says it, is just current in motion. It flows toward coherence, not effort. When your frequency matches stability, money moves toward you because you emit reliability in the field. Scarcity isn't lack, it's leakage. You can't receive more voltage when the existing circuit can't contain it. That's why financial upgrades often follow emotional regulation. Your nervous system must first prove it can hold higher current without collapsing. When you operate from grounded voltage, abundance becomes a byproduct, not a pursuit. Relationships function on the same principle. Two fields meet, and instantly they begin synchronizing waveforms. The connection feels magnetic when frequencies align, draining when one signal collapses into the other. This is why unhealed people mistake intensity for love. They're feeling the electrical surge of two unstable circuits trying to balance. But when you bring coherence, you set a stable frequency that invites resonance instead of dependency. The relationship evolves from energy exchange to energy expansion. Then comes purpose, the domain where all frequencies converge. Purpose isn't a task. It's a signal bandwidth where your personal voltage aligns with the field's global current. That's why true purpose feels electric. Your body vibrates when the circuit locks. You're no longer generating current alone. You're tapped into a larger stream. Resistance fades because you're not forcing movement. You've become part of the flow itself. Scenario 3. Imagine a creator staring at a blank page, feeling blocked. The impulse to force inspiration rises. Static builds. Instead, they step back, breathe, let the nervous system settle, and feel the hum of current returning. Minutes later, words begin to flow, not from mental effort, but from electrical alignment. Creation was never about talent. It's about conductivity. Expansion also tests boundaries. The more current you can hold, the more the field entrusts you with. People, projects, influence. If your signal remains coherent, expansion amplifies peace. If not, power amplifies distortion. Every domain becomes a diagnostic board showing exactly where calibration is required. The beauty of expansion is that it exposes your true capacity. Each domain reveals a different frequency range within your field. Money tests grounding. Relationships test coherence. Purpose tests alignment. When all three harmonize, you become a closed-loop generator. Self-powered, self-sustaining, endlessly regenerative. And this leads to the rarest state of all, energetic sovereignty. The point where no field, no person, no system can override your signal. You remain conductive, connected, but unprogrammable. The current flows through you, not into you. You've become the source and the circuit simultaneously. Sovereignty begins the moment you stop needing agreement to confirm your frequency. When your voltage stabilizes beyond external influence, validation becomes irrelevant, not out of arrogance, but because your signal self-verifies. You feel truth as resonance inside your body, and that resonance becomes your only compass. Energetic sovereignty means your field is closed loop, self-generating, self-cleaning, self-correcting. No external current can override it, because every incoming signal gets filtered through coherence before interaction. It's not isolation, it's autonomy. You can stand in a storm of chaos and feel its movement without absorbing it. The current passes around you, not through you. To reach this state, you must first master containment. Every leak, every reaction, every justification is an opening in the circuit. Sovereignty is the art of holding voltage without discharge. When someone tries to trigger you, they're not challenging your ego. They're testing the integrity of your field. If you stay silent, stable, aware, their current dissipates. You've just demonstrated power without conflict. The next layer is energetic transparency. The sovereign doesn't hide emotion, they conduct it. Anger becomes command, sadness becomes empathy, joy becomes amplification. Every feeling is translated into frequency instead of narrative. That's why people feel safe around coherent energy, not because it's soft, but because it's stable. It doesn't pull, it grounds. In this state, decision-making transforms. You no longer choose by logic alone, but by resonance. Each potential reality emits a subtle electrical texture. You can feel which timeline hums clean and which one flickers with interference. Sovereignty allows you to navigate by signal clarity, not circumstance. But the most radical shift is this. You stop negotiating with energy thieves. Whether they come disguised as toxic people, draining systems, or outdated habits, your field automatically deflects them. Not through willpower, through frequency mismatch. A sovereign signal can't be harvested because it doesn't resonate with dependency. And here's the quiet paradox. Sovereignty doesn't isolate you from the collective. It elevates the collective field. Your coherence becomes a stabilizing frequency others unconsciously tune to. That's how revolutions of consciousness begin. One stable transmitter repatterns thousands of unstable ones simply by existing. In sovereignty, power no longer feels like force. It feels like gravity, calm, centered, inevitable. You move through the world like a living axis. Everything either aligns or repels, and you don't chase either. You just stay anchored, broadcasting a signal so clear that the grid itself reorganizes around you. But there's one final layer, beyond control, beyond mastery, where you realize you were never just rewiring the circuit of your life. You were awakening the living architecture of reality itself. And once you reach that point, the system doesn't respond to you anymore. It becomes you. Picture this. Your consciousness as an illuminated circuit grid stretching infinitely in every direction. Each pulse of emotion, each spark of thought, each breath, a point of light sending current across the architecture of existence. You've spent your life walking inside this circuitry, thinking it was outside of you. But once you've stabilized the signal, contained the charge, and claimed sovereignty, something astonishing happens. The grid responds not as environment, but as extension. You move, it moves. You command, it restructures. You're no longer inside reality. You're inside your own operating field. This is the real meaning of rewiring reality. You're not forcing outcomes. You're changing the conductive paths that decide which outcomes exist in the first place. Every pattern you dissolve frees current for a new creation. Every act of awareness redraws the geometry of your world. And because the field mirrors voltage instantly, physical events become delayed reflections of energetic choice. Now imagine walking through your day knowing that every signal, a glance, a decision, even silence, is electrical code instructing the grid. You start speaking differently, moving differently. The smallest gestures hum with intention. People feel it before they understand it. Rooms shift when you enter, not because of charisma, but because your frequency reorganizes local space into coherence. You don't manifest anymore. You calibrate. The current listens. At this level, there's no separation between the seen and unseen, between effort and flow. You realize the field isn't obeying you. It is you remembering itself through motion. And the circuit keeps expanding. Each moment a new pulse, each realization a brighter line across the infinite network. The question now isn't whether reality can be rewired. It's whether you're ready to hold the voltage that comes with being the current itself. So tell me, when was the first time you felt the world subtly shift because of you?